Hey, do you know what time it is? That's right. It's time for Coach Lindy's podcast. The podcast to get you moving. Hi, I'm Lindy Hutchinson, a certified life mastery consultant with the Brave Thinking Institute. As a life coach, I help others transform their life as I have mine. It's not easy, but it is possible, and it most certainly is worth it. Each week, I'll share insights that inform, inspire, and ignite in you your desire to create a life that you love. So let's find out what's going on this week. Greetings. Welcome to the podcast. As always, it's great to see you. Now, you and I have been talking about the suffragettes, and more currently, men and women who have reached out and made changes so that not just women, but all minorities can have equal pay, equal opportunities, and be treated fairly, especially in the workplace and at home and everywhere else. Well, there's a name, if you look back into the 50s and 60s, who particularly was a standout, and her name was Betty Friedan. And Betty Friedan wrote a very powerful book called The Feminine Mystique. And it came out in 1963. Now, what it talks about may be very foreign to us now, but it's persons like her that brought about the changes that many years later we don't even really think about it, for the most part. But we find that in the 30s and 40s and 50s, actually all the way back, women were basically supposed to be at home and take care of the children. Not that that's bad, but it put them in a very difficult spot, because if they didn't have some kind of resource, if their husband left them or if he died, women were scraping. And if they didn't have much in the way of education, if they didn't have some kind of resource or talent or skill, it required some very difficult times and some hardships in many ways. Well, Betty Friedan was a very well-educated woman. She was born in 1921 on February 4th, and 85 years later, she passed away on February 4th in 2006. She was well educated, and she ended up being quite a spokesperson for the workplace, women in the workplace. Same thing is that she began to see how women had limited opportunities. Now, if a woman opted to stay home and have children, that was fine. But what happened maybe when the kids got older, or what if her husband left her? There were many, many women who were in very desperate situations. So the story goes that, this is from Wikipedia. My special thanks to Wikipedia. Under The Feminine Mystique, one of the books that she made incredibly popular, that became very popular because it dealt with a very difficult and explosive issue. It says that when she attended her 15th college reunion in 1957, she started to conduct a survey of the college graduates, and she began to notice something that she called the problem with no name. And she got some very passionate responses from many of the housewives who she wrote about. She was, she was a journalist. And she started talking about something, namely women quitting their careers and going home, staying home and having children. And a lot of times those women ended up being alone because their husband left them for someone younger, or maybe they passed away. So she decided to write this book, The Feminine Mystique, because she noticed that there seemed to be a scenario, and it went like this. She described a depressed suburban housewife who dropped out of college at the age of 19 to get married and raise 4 children. She spoke of her own terror at being alone and wrote that she had never once in her life seen a positive female role model who worked outside the home and also kept a family. She cited numerous cases of housewives who felt similarly trapped. From her psychological background, she came up with the understanding that actually there were many women who really wanted to stay in college. They really wanted to have a career. They weren't opposed to having a family, but society didn't give them a lot of options. It was like, this is what you're going to do. And there were many women, of course, who did drop out of college, and they did have satisfying lives. No one's life is perfect, but it became a real topic and a hot topic. And the publisher only printed like 3,000 copies, and it ended up being a bestseller, a runaway bestseller, and is still considered a classic in terms of understanding where society was and the changes that needed to take place. Betty Friedan wrote a great deal. She was a professional writer, and she was married for a while, for several years, and she had 3 kids. Apparently, her success as a writer, and especially as an outspoken person for those in the workplace, put a great strain on her marriage. There might have been other factors, but she did divorce. So people had to speak up, and Betty Friedan was one of them. So when you have a chance, you might read The Feminine Mystique. Now it's probably going to sound kind of archaic and backwards, but then it was truly groundbreaking. This week, my power word is unabashed. Betty Friedan, and if you go to YouTube, my favorite place, you can Google or say Betty Friedan, and you'll see quite a few interviews and a great deal of information on her. She is very outspoken. Not every woman liked her, but she did open many doors, and she was able to get a lot done. And many of our freedoms and opportunities, no doubt, are linked to her work. So I call her No Fear Friedan. And from our Hey That's Funny file, Jay Leno said this: "Here's something to think about. How come you never see a headline like, 'Psychic wins the lottery'?" Thank you, Jay. So, a lot to think about, and feeling good that we have so many freedoms and opportunities, and glad that there were persons like Betty Friedan who we may not agree with in everything they said and did, but they did open doors, and they did get dialogue going, and they did bring out things that people didn't want to talk about, but today we don't have to worry as much about, because now there's laws and opportunities that are active in our behalf. So, have a great week, and remember, keep building a life that you love, because you deserve it, right? Okay, take care. See you next time. Hey, thanks for joining me this week. I look forward to being with you every week. And if you'd like to get in touch with me, please email me at coachlindy@lindyhutchinson.com. My name is spelled Lyndi, so it's Coach Lindy, Lyndi, at Lindy Hutchinson, LYNDIHUTCHINSON.com. I value what your input is, and I'm always open for suggestions and ideas. If you will like and or subscribe to this podcast, that would be wonderful. I appreciate it. And I enjoy anything that you might want to send in, or if you would like some more information about coaching, send me an email and I will get back with you, and we'll talk about how you can create your best life. Have a good week. We'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.